This is a bit of a strange one. At the end of the last video, you remember I still had a finish to put on, the bridge to shape and glue on, nut and saddle to make, stringing up and set up, and you'll see a lot of that, nearly all of it in fact, in this video. But as you'll also see, things didn't quite go according to plan, and in rather a bad way. But I'll show you the video as I made it, and let what happened speak for itself. I hope you enjoy it, at least until the end bit. I've just finished sanding the top, and I've gone down to 600 grit because of the lacquer on this Rosette. I wouldn't normally go that far on wood before French polishing, but the great thing is that the lacquer is now completely flat. It didn't take much sanding to get it from that slightly dished look it had before to completely flat, so I'm really pleased. That's worked really well. I'm getting ready to French polish the top, and I'm going to mask the area under the bridge so I don't have to scrape much off to glue it on later. I know the different distance between the front of the nut and the front of bridge. I have an Excel sheet which I use for all that kind of stuff. 623.5. So I'm going to line this up and use the tape to mark it, then put the bridge in place and then cut round this piece of packing tape, cut round the bridge, which will leave a bridge shaped piece in place, and I can just polish over that and lift it off later, leaving the wood underneath. Here's my bridge mask in place. I've had to fiddle around with tweezers and a scalpel because you don't want to cut into the wood fibres here, so you have to try and cut just through the packing tape and leave the wood fibres intact, so it's a bit tricky. But anyway, it's worked out fine. The shape is good and there aren't any bits sticking outside the outline of the bridge, which is the worst thing that can happen, because then the polish obviously won't take, and then that'll show later when the bridge is glued on. If it's undersized, that's okay. I'm just going to put the first few coats of shellac on. I'm by no means an expert French polisher, but I'm getting better slowly. first couple of coats of shellac are always revealing, because the slightest flaw in the surface will show up, and sure enough, I'll try and get a shot of this, but I can see in the waist there's a slight, tiniest of gaps just inside the purfling, so between the purfling wood and the top on both sides actually. So I'm going to go in again with the grain filler and sort that out before I carry on any more polishing. There's also a few minuscule pinholes in the rosette, which I thought I'd got out with the grain filler before, but they're still showing up now. So I'll try and get those sorted out as well before I do any more. Here's my setup for confirming the compensation needed at the nut and the saddle end of the guitar. The nut has been placed forward by an amount I calculate based on the measurements in my jig, and basically the string which needs the most nut compensation determines the amount forward that I set the nut, sometimes with a little bit more, so that in fact every string will finally be set back from the front of the nut by a certain amount, and in general the large strings by not very much and the small strings by a fair bit more, back to where a normal, almost to where a normal nut position would have been. And at the saddle end, I've got this very ingenious little device made for me by a, well, I could call him a pen friend, I guess. I've never met him, but he's a luthier in Sweden called Roger Hagström. And he sent me this which he uses himself. He restores old Levins and is a very talented engineer as well as a gifted restorer of these old guitars, and he made this little jig. So basically it allows me, by screwing here back and forth, to adjust the break position of the string over this piece of wire, and I can adjust the height with these two grub screws here to get me the right action that I want at the 12th fret. And then of course here I just have a standard tuner. Now this is tuned one pitch low, one whole tone low. Just get it bang on. Okay. Now first I'll check the nut end at the, say, the 2nd fret. And that's absolutely spot on as it happens, so I don't need to do anything at the nut end. Now let's check the harmonic. Can't do this with one hand very easily. Okay, in the fretted 12th. That's a bit sharp. That's a touch sharp, so the saddle point needs to come back a little bit. So I'll adjust. That's got it, that's dead right now. So now I can measure the distance between the front of the nut and the wire, and that'll give me a mark on the bridge, and from the 6 marks I'll mark out the saddle slope. The reason I'm taking this apart is I'm afraid I have some very bad news. The guitar has just fallen on my garage floor and cracked. I'll show you the injury in a moment. The bevel I'd worked so hard to get right. The top has come away from here. I'm going to try and fix it obviously, but I think I'll probably have to withdraw from the Great Guitar Build-Off. I'm very sorry to say that my time in the Great Guitar Build-Off is at an end. I was doing a setup on the guitar and I had it, I thought, clamped properly to my bench in the playing position. I was going to adjust the action at the nut end, and the guitar fell off onto my concrete floor and has cracked. There's a crack between the top and the linings all the way around here. The top itself is cracked on the arm bevel, and it's just a mess. I'm going to try and fix it, but I don't think I can submit the guitar, the final instrument, for any kind of auction now. So I'm afraid this may not be the last video, but as far as the guitar is concerned, this is goodbye. Right, so that accident happened yesterday morning, Tuesday the 22nd, and since then I've had a bit of time to calm down and think about it, and obviously work on the damage, which could have been a lot worse actually. I'm pretty sure I've managed to fix all the structural issues. There really weren't that many, in fact, and in a way, luckily they were confined to the arm bevel area, which was never going to be part of the sound producing part of the guitar anyway, because the bend in the wood would stiffen it enough to take it out of the equation for making any noise. So I'm happy with the inside, and I filmed what I've done, so I'll be producing a repair video some point in future, I guess. And so now really it's mainly a question of cosmetics. I had been planning this morning, in fact, to take it to a friend of mine in its pretty much finished state, so that he could play it and make some music on it. He's a much better player than I am. And so I'd have a soundtrack or some video of the final guitar to demo it. And what I think I might do, because time is short for both of us, not just because of the GGBO deadline, but he's also going on holiday soon, I'm going to put the cosmetic fixes on hold, take it to him, warts and all. He can play it and make some music, and hopefully that will give me a nice soundtrack. I mean, I was really happy with the way the guitar was sounding, what little I heard of it before this happened, and I don't think that will be affected by anything that has happened or the repair that I've had to do. I think it will still have a really good sound, great sustain and all the rest of it. So I think it's worth doing, and when he gives it back after a few days, I'll continue with the cosmetic improvements, and depending on when that is, if I can get some decent final photos and put together a final video, I may still submit something to the competition. But anyway, If not, and anyway, I'll make a video about the fixes that I do, and so that will be something coming up in the future. So until then, or until a final submission video for the competition, goodbye for now.